It's just so delightful to see you all here and to know that I'm in the esteemed company of 100 wonderful creatives is just so stimulating and inspiring. So thank you very much, each and every one of you, for being here and showing up to listen to me. It's very humbling. I thought I'd start with this because on the theme of connect, this was the very first piece of machinery that I had to learn to use in order to connect with other people. And I'm just wondering if anybody knows what it is. Which just shows you how far back I go. Some people, when I've asked that question, have said it's a Gestetner, and some of you may know Gestetners, but in fact it's something called the Bander machine. And the Bander machine required spirit ink and lots of paper and just a lot of patience to, churn things through so that you could have multiple copies of things to actually deliver to the people that you wanted to know about what you were doing. My life became a lot easier when this became available to me, and I'm just wondering why. Can anybody think of what it was that made that machine so attractive? Partly, but let's face it, typewriters were already in existence at that time. What could you do with that machine that you couldn't do with any other typewriter? No, you couldn't print with it. You could delete, that's right. It had the correcting ribbon, and you could, character by character, actually delete any mistakes that you had made. So I just offer all of that because over all the years that I've been in the creative sector, I've had to learn many, many things along the way. Now I wear a whole lot of different identities, and I thought I would give you a sense of what they are. And then coming to my favourite one, Artist of the Invisible. And what that means really is not so much that I am an invisible artist, but rather more that over many, many years, my skill set, if you like, has been around the facilitation of teams and the building of organisations to get things done, preferably things that are hugely innovative and very creative. So going back to the farm story, some of you are probably wondering, gosh, what was that about? Well, when I was 19 or so living in a shared household in Ponsonby, we got along so very well as a group of people, we thought, gosh, we've got to have a batch somewhere where we can just have some lovely summer holidays. And I went up to the Coromandel with one of the people in the flat, and I came across a farm that was for sale. It was a coastal farm, and it had 4 sections attached to it that were freehold. And so I spoke to the farmer and I said, well, could we have one of those sections and we could put a caravan on it and so on? And he said, look, I'm really sorry, but it's the whole farm or nothing. And I said to him, well, you tell me about why you want to sell your farm. And he said, well, I've been on the Coromandel for quite some years and I've had to take most of the kauri off the farm, and I've had to really, make it into pasture to make it a viable concern. It's time now, he said, on my retirement to give back, and I want to sell that farm to someone who understands the environmental need to regenerate it. And I said to him, he took me up the top of this ridge, and it was absolutely beautiful, looking out to Great Barrier and back into the Moiho Ranges. And I said to him, well, you know what? I've only got $100. And I said, how much is it for? And he said, it's 100,000. And I said, But he said, you know, I really like you. I was only 19, truly. He said, I really like you and I'm going to help you make it happen. And I said, well, how's that? And he said, well, I will leave in half the money for 4 years if you can raise half the money in 18 months. And so I thought to myself, well, okay. And I was only an urban person. I have never lived on a farm. And I said, yeah, okay, I get what you're on about. I will do that. And so my first engagement with, if you like, of the artist of the invisible identity that I now have came into being because I had to really not just find people, but sell a vision and also facilitate a very motley group of creatives, as a matter of fact, into a company of 50 who were willing to put the money in for that $50,000 deposit. And we did it. And I am very pleased to say that the farm, which is property at the top of the Coromandel, still exists. And I only sold my share in it for nothing, $25,000, in 2011. So I've been with that project the whole time. And I would have to say that learning about group life and community life in that situation has been terrible in many ways, but it's also been incredibly revealing and very insightful about how people work together in groups. And what I've learned there, I have to say, has fed my whole career in the creative sector. I love the theme of connect, and what got me about it really when I started to think about it was that it's one of like a lot of C words that are really relevant to our sector. It's just an unusual thing. And I started to think about what some of those C words were, and you can see some of them here: curiosity, compulsion, culture, cost, consumer, co-opetition, compromise, capacity, currency, etc. And they all connect to the viability and sustainability of what we do. And I thought, because this is about Connect, and here you are a group of 100 people, and some of you are new to this Creative Mornings event, that it would be really useful to spend just a few minutes turning to your neighbour or perhaps somebody behind you and having a look at one of those words, the one that's most relevant to you at the moment, and just sharing that with your neighbour for a couple of minutes only. We're not going to do this for any length of time, but it gives you an opportunity to connect with somebody around you. So do that, and very soon I'm going to ring the bell and then we'll carry on from there. Turn around. What word really relates to you at the moment? Which C word? So just out of interest, just call out a couple of the words that came forward for you.
Community.
Yep, community.
Collaboration.
Yep.
Culture.
Culture change, yep.
Curiosity.
Yeah, it's a very good one. What else?
Collective.
Collective. Oh, goes right back into the Moiho days. What else? Courage, yes, yes. So what I'm going to do for the next little while is talk about 3 combinations. The first is courage and conviction, so right on the money there. The second is collective collaboration, and the third is creative currency. And I want to talk about each of those very briefly because we've only got a short period of time, and tell you a little bit about one of the projects that I'm most involved in, and that's taken a lot of my time in recent years. And as you know, that's the big idea. And some of you will know the website, of course, but you may not know that we are a charitable trust, and we're also a team of creative sector specialists who deliver innovative development projects in New Zealand's creative ecology that create real outcomes. And we're very influenced, as all of you are here, I'm sure, by creativity, the arts, business and technology. Business being the topic, if you like, that I have been most interested to explore over the last number of years. Why? Because I've yet to meet a creative person in all the years I've been going that hasn't said to me, if only I could do what I love to do and make money from it, or find a way of sustaining myself through what I do so that I can have a life that doesn't require me to do things that I don't want to be doing. I want to make a really important point about the work that I do and have done for all those years, even right back to the farm story, and that is that there's nothing that I have ever achieved that I have done on my own. I have always worked with other people in creative teams. There are people in the Big Idea Project who go right back to 1999, which is when the idea of it first occurred to a number of us. And our current team has been together since 2007, through thick and thin, I might add. The Big Idea is a project that doesn't get investment funding from anyone in particular. We have to earn a lot of the money for the project. And so we are a social enterprise, and in a good year, we generate more than $5 of additional income for every dollar of grant money that we receive. Now, I could never do that without being part of a team of people who each have come into that project with their skill set. It has been a tough couple of years, and I know many of you will know that for yourself. But in 2011-12, we celebrated 10 years of that project, and we made a little video, and I thought I would show it to you because it hasn't had much of an outing. It's only 30 seconds long, and it encapsulates what the Big Idea Project is. So the first thing I want to have a look at is connecting courage and conviction, and that's a good way into what led me into the Big Idea Project. And at the time, I have to say, I was at Creative New Zealand. I was a senior manager there. It was the only period in my life where I have had a regular income. I have been working in the arts for almost 40 years, and I did 10 years at Creative New Zealand, which enabled me to get my teeth fixed, believe it or not, and also to get together a house deposit, because I've realised, of course, that it's very hard to be a member of the freelance community if you don't have some kind of investment behind you that you can draw on. And I come from a family background where that simply hasn't been the case, so I've had to kind of build it up as I go. But the Big Idea first came to us, not fully formed in the way that it is now, because there was a case manager, believe it or not, at the old Work and Income New Zealand office in K Road, who came to see me one day. He was a young Māori man, and he even brought a bundle of files with him, and he put them on my desk, and he said, "Look at this." He said, "Here are all these creative people who are being pushed into jobs that they don't want, that they're not suited for, and that nobody cares about. What can we do about it?" I really think he said something has to be done. And I could completely get where he was coming from, because of course, being in the creative sector, we know that we experience great periods of lumpy income, short-term contracts, limited investment opportunities to get the resources in. We often a lack of confidence about how to make a successful career from what we've got. And we've got lots of family pressures on us often, be it from our extended family or from our partners, to actually, get a real job and get going on bringing money into whatever it is that the whānau in this instance wants to do. So I, at the time, knew that there were a group of people down in Dunedin who wanted to argue with government that there should be an artist's wage, that there should be a special benefit for artists. And I have to say, honestly, I was very opposed to that. I thought that artists becoming part of the social welfare system was a very bad move. But I had also come out of a period in the 1980s where there had been a lot of work programs of one sort or another. And although when I worked up in Whangarei on a huge project which could be the subject of a talk all in and of itself, and had had a lot of success with work programs funded by the government, I didn't think that they were the long-term answer either. And I got together with two women that I absolutely respect and admire, Margaret Crozier, who will be familiar to some of you, and Sandy Morrison, you will know her as well, some of you. And we decided, no, we had to make a change to the environment. We had to think about how to expand the environment so that there was more opportunity available for creative people and they had more choice about what they could do as what I loosely call members of the freelance economy. We also knew that every career in the creative sector carves a unique pathway, and so there's a lot that is invisible to people who are coming into our ecology wanting to forge a successful career. In fact, there will be people here today who are new somewhat to the creative ecology, and they'll be wondering, well, how do I make it work? How do I make the connections? What am I going to do to actually be in this ecology successfully over a long period? What we also know, though, is that a lot of opportunities are in the margins of the territories that we know. So the things that are sustaining us day to day are not necessarily the things that are going to bring the opportunity to us. So our big idea at the time, in 1999, was to create an innovation using proven community development principles, because you've got to remember, I come out of the 70s, and in the 70s, community development was a big thing, and it's a field of work in and of itself. It has a set of values, it has a set of principles, it has frameworks that are really about empowerment and enablement. And we thought, because in 1999, which doesn't sound so long ago, but what we would have to do really is break down some of the silo thinking in the creative industries. In other words, you've got people who are in the design part of it. You've got people who are in the visual arts part. You've got people in the performing arts part. And of course, to be successful, you do have to know fundamentally and deeply what's going on in your part of the sector. So the vertical slice, if you like, that you're in, you have to know really well. But if you stay in your vertical slice, in the kind of world that we're in today, you will not, in the end, be able to generate all the opportunities for you that there are out there. So we came up with the idea of the big idea, because we thought that was going to be the place where people could see the whole ecology. Now, it's quite different having an idea, which was to have a website that would do this, and to actually bring it to fruition, because we had no money. And also, you'll be interested to know this was about 5 or 6 years before Facebook and the online community platforms that are available today. So we had to launch the big idea in 2000 with 0.6 of a community platform that was available in the open source environment. So that was a courageous thing for us to do, I think, in some ways, and certainly one that mirrored the conviction that we had at the time. I also wanted to give you a sense of what was inspiring us as well, and that was really the knowledge, and this is where the big idea logo comes from, the knowledge that for New Zealand to be a successful society as it is now, Polynesian and European travellers really had come here from the ends of the earth, and with great courage and conviction had looked at the stars mostly and studied the environment to build their own wayfinding tools, such as the matang in this instance, and the chronometer, which is the European version of a navigation instrument. That to us was very inspiring, because if you go back to what I said earlier, we're all on a unique pathway in this sector, but how then do you navigate through, the complex creative ecology that you're in? You do need to make your own wayfinding maps and use some that are out there to help you. So for us, the Polynesian matang was a fitting metaphor for understanding how successful creative careers and businesses are made. Unlike other areas in the economy, people making their way in the creative ecology often need to build, as I've said, and navigate their own pathways using their skills, talents and connections alongside the power of their passion and ideas. Passion will get you a long way, ideas will get you some of the way, but it's really your ability to connect it all together that gets you to where you want to go. So the next little combination of words is collective collaboration. The big idea, and all my projects actually, have really been grounded in collaboration, innovation and community. Because I have learned along the way that people actively working together achieve much, much more than one person working alone. It is such an obvious maxim, but it's one that we can forget, especially in the kind of world that we live in now. Because although it's tempting to think that a lot of online engagement is that connection that will build opportunity, we have to, I believe, continue to be interested and capable of working in face-to-face time as well. I often think that there's a truth that's core to understanding the extraordinary value that is embedded throughout the creative ecology that we work in, and that is that nothing in our sector gets done working alone. There's not one thing that I can think of, even a solitary writer at their desk for 10 years doing a huge novel, let's say, would not be successful if that was all that it would take to get that project up and off. You soon realise, though, that as individual creatives, we are adept at creating something, often magnificent out of nothing, which is the writer in this case, and the development and distribution of that something cannot be done alone. In every case, other creatives, communities and industries need to be involved if the creative idea or innovation is to last. In developing the big idea as a viable project, despite all the financial challenges, and really, again, I could do a talk just on that, it has been very natural for me to embed a strong community ethos in the project that's reflected in how we work as an organisation, in how we deliver the project online, and how we work our real-time initiatives like Survive and Thrive and the Art Venture program. This slide, some of you at the back may not be able to see it so well, simply has all the creative sector disciplines down the railway track, and then off to the side are other parts of the economy. So for instance, tourism, education, forestry, communications, government, technology, justice and so on. And this slide has stood the test of time because this slide was made in 2000, and we did it to illustrate the vision and potential of the arts and creative sector in New Zealand. It's the one that we've never ever lost sight of. So in the first decade of the big idea, the focus was on building and serving a strong online community, because one of the things we realised pretty early on was that it's not just what's happening outside our sector that's perhaps holding us back, and I reflected on a couple of those things quite loosely a little while ago in this talk, but it's also what's happening between our ears. It's our attitudes and our behaviours around who we are and how we want to work as creatives. It's our attitude to money. It's our capacity and willingness to embrace an entrepreneurial energy, and so on and so forth. So we recognised, if you go back to what I said earlier, that we have to change the environment, if you like, that supports creative development and sustainable creative development in this country. We recognised that we had to do two things. We had to look outward and we had to look inward. And so the first 10 years of the big idea has really focused on building that strong online community so that we could offer content and services on and offline to grow capability, confidence and connections for people and organisations in our sector who really do want to be viable. And that's where the Art Venture program has come out of as well, as another example of that. That's going to be an ongoing priority, of course, but what we now want to do in our second decade, because we think the time is right, is to build and grow communication, connections and alignment between the arts and the creative sector and other sectors of the economy as well. We want to both generate and highlight more opportunities for practitioners, creative entrepreneurs in the arts, and particularly organisations who want to leverage extra value, including income from what they do. Again, it's the subject of a whole other talk, but you may not know that there are 18,000 creatives, arts-led creatives, embedded in other industries just in Auckland, working on arts-related things. It's really a quite staggering statistic, but we don't know their stories particularly well, so we want to, on the big idea, start bringing some of those forward so that people can see the different ways that people are applying what they do. Creative currency. Well, I'm inspired by people in our sector who are committed, truly, to putting their arts-led creative inspiration, talent and innovation to the service of something bigger than just their own immediate needs. I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that. I can look around the room here and see a number of people who would say exactly the same. I've had the wonderful good fortune of meeting many such people over almost 40 years of working in the creative ecology. And there's a real reason why we're starting to call it the creative ecology rather than the creative sector. And perhaps I can talk to some of you who are interested in that after this talk. Every day for pretty much all of the many years I've been involved, I've really been deeply appreciative of the opportunity that working in the service of the arts has given me, all the more so because I have not come from a family environment that was able to nurture my creative intelligence. In other words, I do not come from an arts background, and I have had no tertiary training in the arts either. As we noted at Survive and Thrive a couple of weeks ago, New Zealand has indeed come a long way. Globally, we're well known for our distinctive voices that share and intertwine Māori, Pacific, Pākehā and other cultures to tell a story that is distinctly New Zealand. As well, our number 8 wire attitude has matured into an innovation culture that takes pride in its global relevance. I really sincerely believe that the innovation to be found in New Zealand's creative ecology, combined with entrepreneurial thinking, represents the step change needed to impact the serious problems facing so many aspects of the world we live in. Arts-led creativity, alongside the creativity that flows freely throughout society, must be the currency that we use to take us all forward. The exciting challenge is for each of us over the course of a lifetime to learn how to work like an artist and think like an entrepreneur. And what that means really is such things as seizing the moment, going for gold and keeping up the training, the mental training and discipline as much as anything to help make that happen, not being afraid to ask for what you want and need, making good financial decisions, speaking the language of investment and not grants, taking risks that put you outside your comfort zone, activating ways of generating more revenue through what you do as a creative, not being afraid to ask for help, and searching for inspiration outside the square and being very open to connecting with people on the margins of your network. So, in summary, be part of the step change, connect, challenge the conventional. In another way, you challenge the conventional by connecting and being part of the step change. So that's it from me. Happy to take any questions. Thank you very, very much for this.